I think it's worth pointing out, Trump can be very funny sometimes. It reminds me, years ago when I was covering him, he really is funny. You never know sometimes whether it's serious or not.
That's what made him a watchable media personality for years. In that answer, though, the idea that Huawei could be used as a chit is sort of runs afoul of what Mnuchin told us just a few hours ago.
I know. I mean, to throw that into the mix, which is really a law enforcement issue, either they broke the law or they didn't, and they have to be treated like everyone else. Throwing that into a trade negotiation, which has already, taken tariffs and weaponized them, we've just seen in Mexico for purely political reasons, and even with China, not just addressing barriers to competition in China, but a host of supposedly exclusionary policies there that we don't like, is really pushing the envelope. And I don't know, I'm waiting for a victory here. I'm waiting to see one. I just don't know if it's working.
I think his answer on sort of the antitrust question, going after our best and brightest, which it shows a little bit of a conflict going on, right? The fact that his administration, his DOJ, his FTC is starting to investigate these companies at the same time that he says we're better than everybody else. We have the technological prowess, goes after the EU for hating the U.S. every time Margaret Vestager puts another fine on an American technology company. What are investors supposed to make of the president's position there?
Well, first of all, I think, why is it that we excel in innovation, especially in the technology area? I've looked into this over the years. And one of the reasons is that we have a regulatory environment that is much more favorable towards innovation, towards creating wealth, and letting people keep a lot of it if they succeed. Europe has been hobbled for years by an over-regulatory environment. China has a highly regulated state. Ours has thrived, but the idea of now using legislation and the antitrust laws to somehow take this away from people is going to remove the very incentives that have led to the success that he's now extolling. So I totally agree with you. This is not logically consistent.
But you think antitrust is a blunt weapon to fight this thing?
I think it's way too blunt. I mean, first of all, the antitrust laws are very explicit in many Supreme Court cases. Big is not bad automatically. The fact that we may not like the fact that Facebook is big as it is, we may not like the fact that there are privacy issues that they haven't dealt with adequately, does not mean that under the antitrust laws we can go in and break them up. There either has to be a combination that restrains trade, or there has to be an act of monopolization. We are a nation of laws. And they have to break a law for us to go in and take some of these drastic remedies. And I'm still waiting to see what is it exactly that they've done wrong.
I mean, you don't think that Google or Facebook has too much power?
Well, I don't think that's not the issue for the antitrust laws. However much power they have, the question is, how did they get it? If they got it through the proverbial skill, foresight, and industry, then the antitrust laws does not provide a remedy to go in there and punish them. The antitrust laws wants to encourage that, except when they use it in an unlawful way, which, again, people can argue about it. If they are too big, per se, then that has to be addressed with some kind of a legislative remedy that, by the way, applies to everyone, not just them. You can't just have one law that says we don't like Facebook, so we're going to break them up. You could provide requirements for protecting privacy for all technology companies, and that maybe is something Congress should be looking into. I don't dispute that.
What about the argument that market forces are going to take care of this problem? You got Amazon and Google beating each other up pretty bad. Apple obviously having to switch their model focus entirely because of the phone cycle. Facebook, core app is declining rapidly in terms of their key demographic, right?
Absolutely. I mean, what is going on in Silicon Valley in many ways is an antitrust regulator's dream. It's what you want to see a competitive marketplace look like. That Google is really on the defensive dealing with Amazon is an incredible turn of events that, frankly, I never would have guessed about. All of these high market shares that they have, which you have to define the market sometimes very narrowly even to get there, seem very precarious, very vulnerable to the very innovation that Trump has said is what we're known for. And if I was one of those companies, I would be looking over my shoulder all the time. Again, there are arguments that, even the Google search function, are they favoring their own things and at the top of that? Well, they better be careful, because there are competitors who would not favor that. And if consumers don't like it, if they feel they're abusing their thing, it's easy to change.